Guys, welcome back. This is Eric here with Guitarsenal. Today, very special video. Very special. All right, we got a vintage guitar showcase we're going to be checking out here. This is a 1959 Magnatone Mark 8 in very storied condition. You know, a little wore out, okay, but definitely a cool guitar. These guitars have a very rich history, and you can tell it almost has a Rickenbacker-like appearance. And the reason for that is because the gentleman that designed this guitar, his name was Paul Barth, I'm sorry, with a B, bravo, Paul Barth. And he had a big part in designing, obviously, you know, the early Rickenbacker guitars. So he was brought on to, you know, as an engineer, to design guitars for Magnatone. You know, Magnatone was really into amplifiers at the time. They wanted to get more into the lap steels and into the guitars. Early on, they brought on Paul Bigsby. That's another story for another day. We don't have a Mark V or a Mark IV here to show you, but those were designed by Paul Bigsby, which is a famous maker of the Bigsby vibrato tailpiece. These guitars were later, after Paul Bigsby left Magnatone and went on to follow his dreams on the tremolo tailpieces. They brought in Paul Barth, and of course, these guitars were what he came up with for Magnatone. Now, some of the early Barth instruments were real turds. When Magnatone was making them, they didn't really know how to make guitars well, and some of the early ones, you got to be careful on these, because some of them, if they're made by Magnatone themselves, they're pretty crummy. But later on, like getting into the Mark 8s like these, they actually had Barth's shop making the guitars and then just branding them Magnatone. So this is a Barth-produced instrument that was made in his shop for Magnatone, which is cool. If you look up Barth guitars, you'll see this exact guitar, but it'll just say Barth on the headstock instead of Magnatone. All right, now we're running through a 1968 Super Reverb amplifier. All right, I had a little, you know, kind of preachy sounding loop there in the intro. I mean, this thing has some really cool sounds to it. You've got a tone and volume stack for each pickup, okay, a three-way selector, and then these single coil pickups are really lowish wound output. They're like 6, 7K, I mean, no more than like maybe 6.8K on the output spectrum. Now, the only functional upgrade that we had to do to this guitar just to make it playable, we added a shortened, specialized Telecaster bridge to this guitar that's a rear loader. Now, the old holes are left over, and we have the original bridge, but the original bridge on these things, they just don't intonate very well, and they don't stay in tune very well. This bridge added a lot of functionality, so we opted to add this bridge just to make the guitar stay in tune, hopefully a little bit better. Original Kluson Deluxe tuners. All the original tuner buttons are intact. It's got a big old fat chunky neck on it. And it is a slightly shorter scale than a standard Fender or Gibson, so it plays a little bit different. It's a little bit harder to get around if you got really big hands, but if you want a great rhythm guitar or for lines and to get in that Rickenbacker territory without spending a ton of money, it can definitely do that. Allow me to tune. I think we're out of tune. Let me retune and we'll go through the sounds on the guitar. All right, we're going to go through the pickup sounds. This is straight 68 Super Reverb. The neck pickup is quite punchy. It's not Strat-like, it's not P90-like, it's not like a Tele. It's kind of its own animal. And it's not even like a Rickenbacker, okay? It is a very bright sounding guitar. We did have the bright switch engaged on the Super. Chad was saying, hey, it sounded a little brash, so we switched the bright switch down on the Super. Let's give it a listen. you know, great kind of rhythm and blues guitar. Very, very nice and warm and articulate. Now, one caveat, the switch on this thing is kind of on the way out, so you're going to hear it kind of hop in and out. I apologize. She's old. This is a 59. Let's throw her a bone today, okay? So here's the middle position. Here's our middle position. Very, very cool. All right, bridge pickup. I'm gonna stop and tune. I'm sorry. I'm beating the heck out of this thing. Let me tune it. All right, I apologize, guys. I've got a heavy right hand, and she's old. These tuners probably, you know, kind of slipping a bit. I did have luthier. Lubricate them really well, so I'm sure they'll kind of break in. All right, let's give it a listen here. How about a little drive on the bridge pickup? So with a little drive, really, really nice. Gets a nice edge on it. Almost gets that kind of PAF quack in a way on the bridge. It's a really, really cool guitar. Of course, the tone controls are very, very interactive and easy to use. Let's get on that bridge pickup, dial out a bit of that tone there. Listen to that. She's old, guys. I'm bending the snot out of her, all right? But hey, okay, that brings me to the next thing we probably need to talk about. It's important. Don't go doing a bunch of neck bends on these dang things, because it's just two skinny little bolts that hold the neck on, and this is a tiny little plate. Out of all the bolt-on neck guitars that came out of the era, this is a very weak design, so be careful. Don't drop it down the stairs. It's going to have a bad day. The neck pocket, pretty decent fit. Big old chunky 50s neck, which you would expect to see out of a 50s era guitar. Another thing to consider as well with this, again, I said, don't bend the neck. No neck bends. Don't do it. The meat from these screws actually biting into the neck, not much, guys. So be careful. But because of the construction of this guitar, it rings quite well. It's got a very nice sound plugged in. It's very lightweight. This instrument is extremely light. Definitely not like a Les Paul. This is a maple body, okay? Check this out. Maple. Hard rock maple, okay? That's definitely a hard maple. And we got some nice checking. It's a nitrocellulose finish, as you can obviously tell, sprayed really thin. I mean, literally, I can just kind of take my pick and, I mean, this finish is just flaking off. Look, it's already on my, it's all over the floor, the finish. So I don't expect the finish to hold up very long. But we wanted to preserve this instrument. Some people would refinish it. I think it's really cool just like it is, right? You know, tons of playing wear. It's just been loved and used over the years. So this has been the Magnatone Mark 8. I hope you enjoy it. Oh, another interesting feature, dummy me, I forgot to mention. Okay, the pick guard, okay, is made out of a really cool material. It's not plastic. It is a fiberglass resin composite, okay? Back in the day, Magnatone was... what they were doing is they had contracted, you know, a lot of different companies to do different parts for them. Now, during the 60s, this is a 59, but I know in the 60s, their suitcase amps that they were making were made out of a very similar plastic to what this guard is made out of. And it's got this really cool texture to it, which you really can't see in the video, but it's got an awesome texture that is just inherent because of the manufacturing style. It's very thick. And man, this guitar is like the perfect weight, great balance, big chunky neck. It's just everything you want in a vintage guitar. And these things can still be had for respectable money if you keep your eyes peeled, okay? Really cool guitar. We love our Magnatone amplifiers on this channel. So we wanted to give a Magnatone guitar a go just because, why not? They're so, you know, awesome, really cool. Okay, I'm gonna make a little more racket and let you guys get back to your day. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. What a killer instrument. Just a wonderful studio tool. Great for the collector. If you're a vintage guitar guy and you don't have like $20,000 for a freaking Fender Strat, I mean, obviously some of the Fender and Gibsons are really expensive, out of the working man's budget. Some of these cool old Supros and Maggies can still be a really great instrument, but without having to spend a ton of money compared to their other, you know, high-priced brethren that are out there. You can still get some really nice tones out of these things. So, guys, thank you. We'll see you next time. All right, making some racket here. Let's do it. Let's get that tone laid back here. See if we can woman her up a little bit on the bridge.